Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I am excited for this gentleman that is on my show today because he is changing lives of men, and I guess you could even say fathers, of fathers, guys that have been, dads for a long time, guys that are brand new dads. But you know what? He's really changing the lives of men in general. And he and I have gotten a chance to connect over social media, as I do with all my guests. But my good friend Ryan Michler has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up, Bryan? Good to see you. I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it as well. Let's kind of just dive into your back history, how you grew up, kind of the things you got into, obviously what you're doing now. And then more importantly, this is a dad podcast, so I want to know about your kids as well.
Yeah, I grew up like anybody else, nothing special about anything I had going on. I tell people I grew up in a home and I was primarily raised by my mother. My dad wasn't really around. Had a couple of stepfathers come into my life who weren't real great examples of what it meant to be a man. I didn't know any different at the time, but certainly do now. So yeah, I think it was a pretty normal childhood, just like millions and millions of people who listen to our podcasts and who live life. And I felt like there was maybe a little bit of a gap as I got older with regards to what I could have learned as a young boy, growing into a man. And I hope that as I'm a father now and a business owner and a leader in certain aspects of my life, that I've learned some things that have helped me along the way. And I've learned from a lot of men. I've had 400 and I think over 60 incredible men that I've interviewed now over the past 8 years. And I learned from all of them, yourself included, and what I can do better. So I'm on the path just like anybody else. I don't think I'm that special. So when people say, what's your background? I don't know. It's just like yours. It's just not all that exciting, frankly.
All right. Well, it is exciting because you are on this road now of really helping men level up, helping men elevate their lives from their families to their business, whatever the case may be. And you're learning that process along the way as well. So that's something that the more you pour out to others, same thing with me with my podcast, the more dads I pour into, or the dads that I coach, I'm actually still learning myself. And I've got two grown boys that are 24 and 22. So even though I've been around the block a little bit with as far as parenting goes, I'm still learning daily. So thank you for sharing.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And I've got 4 kids, so when you think you have one figured out or you understand the dynamic of one, the other one changes, and it's a challenge. And then especially considering my circumstances where I'm a single father, they're with me half the time now. So that dynamic certainly is something that I'm learning to navigate with some difficulty at times. And other times I feel like I'm doing it right. It's hit or miss.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be perfect all the time. As much as we'd like to be a perfect dad or a perfect parent or a perfect husband or a perfect wife, it's not going to be perfect. And we just have to learn to face the challenges, learn from them, grow from them, and move forward. So how old are your kids?
15, 12, 10, and 7.
Okay. So you've got the range there going from pretty much high school all the way down to elementary school.
Awesome. I don't measure it like that because they're homeschooled. So when people say what grade are they in, I don't know what grade they're in. They're all homeschooled. So your guess is as good as mine. I think my 7-year-old would be in second grade, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Second, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know either. It's been a while since I've had a child that young.
True.
So
true.
Well, let's talk about Order of Man for a little bit. I want to kind of dive into that and what's the purpose behind it. Kind of share a little bit about why that mission is so important to you.
Yeah, like I said, the reason the mission is important is because I grew up not knowing this stuff. So when I launched Order of Man 8 years ago, it really wasn't to create this global movement of men who are all improving each other's lives. It was selfish, really. I wanted to have good conversations with men I was inspired and motivated by. And I had another podcast at the time, which I enjoyed the medium of podcasting. I did not want to continue to have that same conversation about financial planning, which is my work previous to this. So I pivoted and started Order of Man. And I remember from day one, we had more episodes on that first episode of Order of Man than we did at any point with the previous podcast. So I knew I was onto something pretty quickly. And I think that's more of a testament to the message and the fact that there are millions of men who grew up like me, not really knowing how to take their masculinity, their raw, unbridled masculinity, and harness it for productive outcomes, which is what I would generally consider manliness. And so it took off quick. And here we are 8.5 years later now. Just it continues to grow and continues at times to surprise me. But every time I get a message from a man who is able to salvage his marriage or lose some weight or start a business or feel more confident in himself, I know we're on the right path.
Man. Well, I'm proud of you and proud of the work that you've done and continue to do. I think it's important to recognize that, I mean, you got 4 kids, and this message that you're really trying to give to other men out there, it really, your kids pick up on that. Your kids see the kind of message that you're trying to teach other men. What are you hoping that your kids learn from what you're doing and the work you're doing with other men?
I think it's more important what I do and how I show up for them rather than what I might say on a podcast or post on social media. So I think what I would want them to get from me running this organization is following something that other people didn't really know about or believe in, pursuing something that's meaningful and significant to you, whether it's this or something completely different. Learning to create value and create products and services and offerings from nothing. Chasing something that is exciting to you. I think that's what I want them to learn from the business. As far as what I want them to learn generally, I think it's what we all want. I want them to learn how to work hard, how to be disciplined, how to sacrifice, how to treat people with respect, how to serve themselves and other people, how to protect themselves and others. Our motto is protect, provide, preside. So I want them to be able to protect themselves and other people. Provide for, meaning that I want my kids to be contributing members of society. I don't want them leeching off of other people's hard work or efforts. I want them to be able to pave their own way. And then preside, which is synonymous with leadership. So I want them to be able to lead themselves well. And then those that they have a responsibility for, whether it's colleagues or coworkers or neighbors or friends or teammates or whoever it might be, I want them to lead them well.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand that, a lot of parents want their kids to live healthy, productive lives. We all want our kids to basically strive to be better than the way we are as men, or at least equal to us if we feel that we're in a good position as a dad or a leader of our family. I think it's important to understand that, hey, yeah, I want my boys to be better than I was growing up, and I want my boys to learn what it takes to make sacrifices and to what it takes to get through challenges and what it takes to face struggles. I want them to understand how to handle that, because when they are adults like they are now, they'll be able to work their way through it much easier than someone like, somebody that may have littler kids that just rescues them every single minute. They're going to grow up and not really understand, when the challenge hits them in the face, that they're not going to really understand how to manage it. And it sounds like you're doing that with your kids.
I try to. I mean, I know what you're saying with regards to the way that people rescue their children, and it's hard because it is tempting. You don't want to see your children suffer. But what's interesting is we'll say that we're doing that for our kids. We don't want them to suffer. I actually think it's that the parent doesn't want to suffer. They can't sit in the discomfort of their child failing or going through a difficult time or sitting and living with the consequences of their decisions. A parent can't do it. So it's actually very selfish not to administer discipline, not to allow the consequence to play out for decision making. It's selfish, and it's purely self-preservation. It has nothing to do with how you feel about your kid. That's just what we hide behind.
Yeah. I think the same is true when it comes to sports. I coached my boys from the ages of 4 all the way up through high school in various types of sports, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever the case may be. And I witnessed it just as a coach. I've coached thousands of kids in my life, and I witnessed it just as a coach, seeing other coaches that were dads of players on the team and just watching them kind of manifest this way of living through their kids' eyes, right? this way of just kind of trying to know that they didn't measure up as much as an athlete. So they're hoping that they live through their kids' eyes and measure up as an athlete through their kids' eyes. I mean, I just think it's crazy to me to witness that. I see it all the time.
Yeah, I used to do that where I would want my children to, especially my boys, my two oldest in particular, where I'd want them to excel in the things that I excelled at or to be interested in the things that I'm interested in. And I really don't care at this point. It doesn't, you can learn teamwork, you can learn sacrifice and commitment and discipline and work ethic in so many different ways. And so if it happens to be on the football field, which was my sport growing up, and it happens to be my two oldest sports, great. And if it's soccer or track and field or martial arts, great. I don't care. I mean, there's certain parameters, right? They've got to have some physical activity. It's got to be some sort of team environment. There's got to be a commitment and a sacrifice to it, but you can hit all of those boxes in an infinite number of ways. And if they're more interested in doing something that I'm not, like running, for example, then all the power to them. And it's my job as a father to create opportunities for them to excel in a way that's significant for them.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that parents have a tendency to really push their kids in one direction or the other. And some of the dads that I coach, I encourage them to, you can guide your kids. You can maybe offer suggestions to your kids on what they should or shouldn't do as far as the activities, maybe the extracurricular activities that they're participating in, but allow your kids to kind of dabble in different things. Allow your kids to experiment with different avenues. I was not much of a soccer player. My boys did not like soccer. They hated soccer. I grew up playing sports. My boys just kind of gravitated towards sports, but I was also a Marine. I went into the military and served 4 years in the Marine Corps. My boys wanted nothing to do with the military, and that's okay. That's their choice. But I'm still going to guide them or try to give them advice and encourage them to take certain directions. And if they choose not to, it's their life. They're adults and they choose to live it the way they want to live it. And I just have to support it.
I think that's right. You hear a lot in society these days where you see kids dictating the tone of the conversation and just circumstances to their parents, almost like parents idolizing their children. Mm-hmm. and making all the decisions. They're kids. They're dumb. And I'm not saying that as mean spirited. Right. They're dumb. Well, maybe ignorant is a better way to say it. They may not be dumb, but they're ignorant. They're ignorant to life. They're ignorant to the consequences of their decision-making process. They're ignorant to the real world. So for us just to say, hey, whatever my child wants to do, I'm good with. No, there's parameters. There's things that we operate in, and it's my job as a father to help guide and steer within those parameters. But there's a lot of wiggle room within those parameters to chase something and pursue something meaningful to them. If it's art, if it's culinary arts, if it's hunting, if it's shooting, if it's doing a podcast, if it's white collar, blue collar work, I don't care, as long as it fits within the parameters that I'm helping to establish that I know will put them on the right path.
Yeah. And as long as it's something that they are passionate and happy and enjoy doing, I think for when it comes to sports in particular, and I thought about this when you were talking, we never encouraged our kids to jump into sports. It was just something that they were interested in participating in. But one of our rules was, listen, we want you to have these extracurricular activities outside of school. We think it's healthy for you to be in this kind of environment. So we want you to do it, whether it's sports or playing music or in theater or whatever the case may be. But when you're involved in those activities, just know that there's no quitting. So there's not going to be any quitting during those times. So there was many seasons where my boys, for whatever reason, wanted to quit. They just couldn't take it anymore, the pressure, the stress, or they just weren't happy with the environment. And I'll give you an example. My younger son, he played college basketball, and after his second year of playing college basketball, towards the end of his second year, he didn't want to play anymore. He said, Dad, I don't want to play basketball anymore. And I said, okay, well, that's fine, but you know the rules. And he goes, yeah, I'll finish out the season. He knew that he had to finish the season. Yeah, I'll finish out the season. I just don't want to play anymore. And I said, great. What's the reason behind not wanting to play? He said, I'm just burned out. I'm tired. I want to do other things. I don't have any free time. I want to enjoy college. And right now it's all about basketball. And I'm not enjoying life. And I said, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I didn't even really know that quitting sports was an option growing up. Like
right.
I didn't, I mean, I won't say that it didn't cross my mind. I just didn't know it was an option, but I've coached a lot of sports like you have with my kids growing up, from football to basketball to baseball. In fact, I just got my basketball roster for my 7-year-old that I'm coaching. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't really know it was an option until I started coaching, and I saw kids just not showing up for practice, not coming to games, or not showing up for practice all week. And then their parents being upset that I don't play them in the roster, the lineup right away. I'm just like, they don't know the plays. They're not a team player, or they just wouldn't show up for the last 2 weeks of the season. So, wait, like I didn't know that was an option, but apparently it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Not for us.
I was the same way with you. I had players that were, even when I coached at the high school level, it's funny, you'd have players that for whatever reason they were missing school and missing practice because they were sick, but wow, they're the very next day when we had a game, they were completely 100% healthy. And it's like, I need to take what medicine you're taking, because I can't believe you got that better that fast. I think about, I had my younger son, and this is kind of just going off another story, but my younger son he was in 7th grade. He was playing football. And I was one of the assistant coaches. He was on the team, and 2 games into the season, he didn't do this playing football. He actually did this outside of football, but he broke his wrist, and he was bummed because he knew it meant football was done. And I told him, I said, listen, our season's long. There's a slight chance we'll be able to get you towards the end of the season. We got to make sure that we're taking care of your wrist and all that. But there is a possibility we could get you in towards the end of the season, that the cast will come off and all that stuff. But I told him, I said, here's what you're going to do though. You're still coming to practice. You're still going to learn the plays. You can help the coaches because you're going to be on the sideline. You can help the coaches, but you're still going to come every single day. Just because you have a cast on doesn't mean you're going to sit at home and play video games while your teammates are out here practicing. You're going to be out here every day with us. And he did. And guess what? 2 games left in the season, he came back. And he was fired up.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And you know what? He wouldn't have known the plays had he not come back. Right. I mean, had I just let him stay home, he wouldn't have been ready.
Right. Yeah. There was a kid in high school who was a friend of mine. He broke his wrist or broke his arm. He broke something, and he played the rest of the season with a cast on. He either played defensive back or safety. He played with a cast on.
Wow.
Like, I mean, there was some rules. I think it had to be padded or something. It couldn't be hard. There was a few rules in there, but he would pad that thing up every game and every practice, and he would go out there and he just kept playing. So, there's a lot of excuses that I think parents create. And, that's one of the things that's important too, since we're talking about sports growing up. I remember my football coach actually cut me from my, basketball team my sophomore year. He cut me. I didn't make the team. And I went and complained to my mom, like, hey, cut me. And this is somebody who actually, we had a good relationship. I was good at football. I was good at baseball, not so good at basketball. So it was the right decision.
Right.
And I was complaining and crying about it to her. And she's like, why are you telling me? Go talk to your coach. And I'm like, well, I want to complain to you, And she's like, I don't want to hear about it. You go talk to your coach and ask him what he says. So I did. I reached out to him and I said, Coach, can I talk with you? He's like, yeah. So we talked and we had a good conversation about it, but she never let me hide behind her. And I really commend her for that. At the time, I was like, oh, can't you just, rescue me, or can't you ask? No, that's my problem. That's not her problem. And she needs me to address it like a man, like an adult. And she encouraged me to do that and never got in the way of me facing those difficult conversations and hard circumstances.
Yeah. And I bet you in turn have done that with your kids as well. It's like when issues arise, you need to go talk to the coach.
Yep. And I watch the kids, I watch the young men and I watch them play and watch their demeanor and their attitudes. And it's a little disheartening. I mean, I'm proud, but it's a little disheartening when I see that my children are one of the only few I won't say they're the only few who go up after every game and they shake every coach's
Love
hand
it.
and they
Love
say,
it.
thank you for coaching. Win, lose, or draw, it's thank you for coaching. Thank you, coach. Thank you, coach. And they go and they shake every coach's hand before they leave and get off that field.
Dude, I freaking love that you said that because that was how I raised my boys. My boys, I made them do the exact same thing, and they were in a habit to where they got that when they got to high school, it was automatic. When they were in high school,
Yep.
it was just like I go up to the coach, thanks coach for practice, thanks coach for the game, and at practice, I always had them ask, and I taught them this very young, so when they got into high school, it was much easier. But when they were when they would go through practice, get through practice, they would go to the coach. I was one of the coaches, but I didn't want them coming to me. I wanted them going to another coach and asking. They would ask, they would thank them, and then they would ask, is there anything I need to work on before the next practice or before the next game? And
Yeah.
wait for their advice. They did that every single time. And there was one other tip that I gave my boys. I said, listen, when you're on the bench, when you're playing I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent, people, but it's all
This
good.
is good.
When you're on the bench and you're in a basketball game and you're sitting on the bench, or at a football game and you're sitting on the bench, I want you as close to the coach as possible. So if you go into the game and then the coach pulls you out, you make the guys scoot down. If there's not a seat right next to the coach, you tell them to move, and you don't take no for an answer. You tell them to move. And my boys never had a problem with it.
That's
But
funny.
the coach, immediately they turn to look for a player, and the first guy they're going to see is you, man. That's why you want to be there.
Yeah.
Be as close to the coach as possible. Not only that, you get to hear everything that the coach is saying. So whatever he's yelling, whatever plays he's yelling, you'll be able to hear it instead of goofing around with Billy down at the end of the bench. So
Right.
yeah, my boys did that every single time. Shake the coach's hand, thank them, and ask them how they can, what kind of things they need to work on next time. So that's awesome stuff.
I like it.
I want to know from you, because you've got 4 kids in various ages, and going through various cycles of life right now. What is Ryan challenged with right now? What kind of challenges are you facing right now? And how are you working through it?
Yeah, I mean, specifically with fatherhood, the biggest challenge I'm having right now is as my 2 oldest boys get older, they're chasing girls and they're hanging out with their friends and they're always at sports. And so, I'll text them during the day. How's the day? They're like, good.
Right.
Did you do anything? No. Well, can you talk later? Maybe. It's like, oh my goodness. Like, you know how this goes, right? You're trying to connect and it's increasingly difficult because they're trying to gain their independence, which is good. It's natural. They should, I'm not bagging on that. That's what they should be doing. But admittedly that's a challenge to be able to connect with them and find moments of opportunity for us just to spend time together, whether it's a hunt or, going on a little 2-day trip, which we've done and we do quite often with both of those things. That's a challenge, but I'm really enjoying my time with my 2 younger kids. My daughter, she's 10. She's kind of getting to the point now where she's always with her girlfriends and wants to spend time with them or go to the pool or start a babysitting club and all this kind of stuff, which again is good. But my 7-year-old is still my little buddy. So we hang out all the time. We build Legos. We're outside jumping on the trampoline. We just put a new swing up and he helped me with that. That's not really a challenge. That's a lot of fun. And I'm soaking that up because I see how quickly it goes away when they get a little older.
Yeah. Man, hang tight, dude. Cause it seems like it's going to be a rough ride, but I'm telling you right now, Ryan, when your boys and your daughter, and your younger son, they go through these cycles of life, especially through these teenage years, the last person they're going to want to hang out with is you. Unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure.
They just
Yeah,
want
for
to be
sure.
independent. They want to hang out with their boys. They want to do their things. They just want to be separate from dad and mom. Right.
Yep.
But when they hit those adult ages, oh man, it is like heaven, because my 2 boys are 2 of my best friends. And we butted heads constantly when they were going through their teenage years because they never wanted to hang out with me. They wanted to be with their buddies. If I make a stupid, silly joke in front of their friends, they thought I was just like embarrassing and
an idiot,
the kind of thing. So, but now they're 2 of my best friends, and it's something that's going to happen for you. You just have to hang tight and just appreciate what you have right now. Because
I think one of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
I
go.
cut
You're
you off
fine.
there.
You're fine.
I was just going to say one of the things that I'm really focused on is just doing what I can do to connect with them, regardless of the outcome. And I think that's what a lot of guys won't do, not only within a family dynamic, but even professionally. They'll only do something if they see the result immediately. And the second they don't experience the result they desire, they abandon the effort, even though the effort is good and right and the right thing to do. It just takes time. So, I know for me, sending my kids a text during the day just to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope today's going good. Even though I might get that one word response, or maybe I don't get any response in some cases, that's not going to deter me from continuing to reach out. If I ask my oldest son, hey, do you want to go on this hunt? And he's like, no, I've got this, or I've got football or sports. I'm not going to stop asking him just because he has other things. I'm not going to be discouraged by that and throw in the towel and not invite him, because then he'll think that he's not important and he is. Mm-hmm. So I really try to separate to some degree. And I think you need to know you're doing the right thing. So there's that caveat, but I do try to separate the activity, if I know it's the right activity, from the immediate result that I hope to experience.
Yeah. Well said. I love that. I think that, for dads in particular, it's hard because I don't have daughters, so I can imagine it's especially tough with your daughters. Like, that's your little girl, and you want to do everything you can to protect her, and you want to be around her as much as possible. And that's not always going to be the case. But with boys, I just want them to hang out with me. I wanted them to do things that I like to do, and that just wasn't the case. And I just had to accept that, and that's okay. It's just one of those things where, hey, you're right. I throw myself out there to them. Hey, I'm going to go do this on Saturday. Do you want to go with me? No, I can't. Okay. And then the next time it comes up, I ask them again. We have to do that as parents. I mean, we have to. I mean, we're not going to close the door on our kids because they're not interested in doing something that we want to do. I think
I also don't want to guilt them either.
Right.
So if they can't make that thing on Saturday, I don't want to guilt them and make them feel bad. That's not my intention for them to feel bad because I offered. It's simply, oh, that's okay. I understand. If you change your mind, the offer's on the table. If not, have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the other things I think about is when I coach, I have dads that I coach and stuff. And one of the things that I talk to them about is, through these struggles that they face, that we're talking about right now, of not having this true connection with their kids because they want to be independent and all that. One of the easiest ways to find that connection is to do the things that your kids are interested in doing. So yeah, you know what, Ryan, you may be all into to building something out in the backyard, but your son may not be into that. And you asking your son to join you in doing that, he's going to tell you no. But maybe your son likes to ride skateboards, and Ryan's not a very good skateboard rider, but he's going to go try and ride a skateboard with his son to at least connect with him, to at least spend that time with him. Ryan may fall down a few times, but it's more about spending the time. And if it takes doing the things that your kids want to do, then do it. One of the biggest challenges that I faced as a dad coaching other dads was through the pandemic. There were dads that said, I can't get my kids to hang out with me. I can't get my sons to hang out with me because all they want to do, and we're stuck in the house, obviously, but all they want to do is play video games. And I don't play video games, so I can't get any connection with them. And I said, listen, they're stuck in the house. They can't do anything else. All they can do is play video games. So play video games, learn how to play video games, have your boys teach you how to play video games, those kind of things. So it's that, yeah, you may not be interested in playing video games, but it's the time that you're spending. It's not necessarily the activity that you're doing. It's the time that you're spending with your kids.
Yeah, I agree with that. My second, for example, is into sneakers. He loves them. And he watches videos on them, on how to custom make shoes and which ones are which. And I found a sneaker con is what it's called. It's held every year. So all right. I don't care about shoes. That's not a thing I'm interested in, but I'm interested in him. So we bought some tickets, and next year we're going to go to sneaker con. Like, that's going to be awesome. We're going to spend 2 days walking around looking at shoes. And again, it's not my thing, but if he gets excited and hopped up about it, and I can create an opportunity for him to move more into that, then cool. I'm all about it.
That's awesome. Well, if it's any consolation, I have been to SneakerCon here in LA because I'm in
Oh, really?
California, and
Yeah.
I went. This is God, my younger son. He was in high school, so this is probably 4 or 5 years ago. But we went with a couple buddies. He brought a couple friends, and I had no interest in, like, I could care less about sneakers, but my boy really wanted to go, and he wanted to go because there were some YouTubers there that he knew, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So,
Yep.
yeah, we went, and he had a blast. I was bored out of my mind, but I enjoyed watching him have a blast and watching him get all, googly eyed over these YouTubers that he's seeing, and
Yep.
so it's cool. You'll have fun. You'll have a good time.
Good. Yeah, I'm excited about it to the degree I can be about tennis shoes.
Right. That's so awesome. Well, let me ask you this: when it comes to maybe dads out there that are watching this, that may be going through challenges right now themselves, or maybe there's guys out there that are just about to become a dad. Give me some advice for them. What kind of advice would you share with them as a dad of 4 kids?
You know, the category I want to focus on real quick is those who are going to become fathers. I think
Okay.
there's something that's not often shared with regards to our role and responsibility as dads. And I've said this in the past, and I stand by it wholeheartedly, and that is that your job as a father is to render yourself obsolete, is to put yourself out of work. That is your only job as a father. Now, some people say, well, the dynamic's going to change when they get older. Of course it is. You're talking about your 24 and 22-year-old boys, and you're still friends with them and you still spend time with them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they don't need you for financial support. They don't need to rely on you for every little situation. They don't need you to come rescue them from circumstances they created for themselves. That's not to say you won't be there. There might be, and there will be, mental, emotional, and physical hardship throughout their life. And hopefully you've fostered and developed a relationship where you can continue to talk about that into their adult years.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that rendering yourself obsolete will help you, it's a litmus test for the way that you should be handling circumstances. So, for example, with my mother, when I got cut from the basketball team, she said, why are you telling me? Like, there's nothing I can do about that. Go talk to your coach. She was rendering herself obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
She was putting herself out of a job. And then she was allowing me to deal with my own circumstances so that I could learn from those moments and opportunities. We are to do the same as fathers. When our kid does something dumb, I'm going to defend my kid, of course, and I'm going to make sure that if it's dumb, that it's not life-altering dumb, because then I'll step in if I need to, right? But if it's just a stupid decision, like they stole something from the grocery store, then I have to let them experience the weight of that decision.
Right.
That's rendering myself up. I can't come in and rescue them, because if I do that, then I'll always be in the picture. And I don't want to be in the picture in the way that I am right now. That's supposed to evolve. That father-son relationship is supposed to evolve. So that little phrase of rendering myself obsolete has really helped me make, hopefully, better decisions when it comes to raising my children.
That is a great point. I love that. Rendering myself obsolete. I never thought of it like that. And see, you taught me something right there. I think that's a great point. You're absolutely right, because when I think about my boys growing up, yeah, I didn't want to rescue them on everything. There were certain, like you said, if it could be life altering, where it could impact their life, maybe they're going to step out in the middle of the road in front of a car, and I have to go out and grab them to pull them back. Then yeah, I'm going to step in.
Or they do something dumb with the law, and they're facing prison time. Like, I'm going to step in and do what I can to protect that. Like, there's things, of course, I would do in those situations, but
right.
I think we all get the point.
But when it comes to overall making decisions, my boys are adults, and guess what? They haven't experienced everything that I've experienced as an adult. I'm 50 years old. They have not experienced everything that I've experienced. However, I can provide advice or guidance if they ask. I don't provide it now unless they ask. I'll ask them, what are they up to? I'll ask them the kind of things they're doing, or if they about to make a purchase or something, they might share it with me, and I'll ask them questions about it. But I just give them advice. Hey, I don't know if that's the right choice. I'd probably go this route, but you do you. And then they make that decision, and they have to learn they made that bed. They have to learn to lay in it. So if that's the decision they go with and it doesn't work out, that's their choice. I think that is, I've essentially rendered myself obsolete. And the last thing I want my boys to do, though, is realize that they can't come to me anymore. They know they can always come to me. And it's something that I've shared with them as they grew up. Listen, and I use sports analogy, but I said, listen, I'm always on your team. So if it's something that you did or didn't do, and you need to come talk to me, come talk to me. I'm going to help you. We'll help you through it, work through it. But doesn't mean I won't be disappointed. I could be disappointed in it, but it doesn't mean I don't love you any less. So I'm going to be there for you. My boy, my older son, we bought our boys cars through high school and college. Once they got out of college, my younger son's a senior in college now, but once they got out of college, they're on their own. My older son finished his college, got his college degree, and he wanted to buy his own first car. He wanted to do it himself. He had a nice paying job. He wanted to do it himself. And I said, I helped him through it. I gave him advice on what to do and how to handle negotiating with dealers and all that kind of stuff. But I never once handled it. I just gave him advice on how to handle it. And he took care of it. And he loves his car. So, I mean, those kind of things, just silly examples, but you're absolutely right. We have to be able to kind of let that leash out a little bit. You can't control or be there for everything that your kids are going to go through. But when you are, it's okay if they say no, or if it's okay if they decide not to go with the decision that you made or the advice that you gave. Just have to understand that.
Yep. You got to let them loose a little bit.
Right. Ryan, for my listeners, it's been a great conversation, by the way. I feel like we can go on forever, but my listeners who want to look you up, learn a little bit more about you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Orderofman.com is where we have everything. We've got a podcast. You're listening to a podcast now. So if you want to check out ours, orderofman.com. We've had incredible guests, Terry Crews, Matthew McConaughey, Jocko, David Goggins, Tim Kennedy, Andy Frisilla. The lineup is
just had
incredible.
Rudy Reyes on too.
Rudy that one came out earlier this week. Yep.
How was that? He's been a good
friend over the past couple of years. Oh, he's awesome. He's been a great friend over the past couple of years, and we spend we usually connect once or twice a year at different events or wherever we might be. And he's just a great guy. He's such an interesting personality. He's very successful. He's overcome a lot of hardship, but yeah, he's solid. Outside of that, if you want to email me, Ryan@orderofman.com, or I'm most active on Instagram @Ryan Michler, and you can find me in those three places.
Cool. Well, Ryan, I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect and
me
get
too.
a chance to talk. I know that, we've been social media friends for a while now, but it just seems like anytime I get a chance to meet somebody, even though it's virtually, it's always a win for both of us. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, or you're ever in Southern California, make sure you hit me up so we can break some bread together and catch up.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Ryan. Listen, guys, this has been another awesome episode of Dad Up. If you want to check out what Ryan Michler's doing, please make sure you do that. You can go to his Instagram channel. You can go to, you can check out his podcast. You can check out his website. All that stuff's in the show notes. So make sure you guys do that. And subscribe to his podcast. He's got a ton of great guests on there. So make sure you guys are subscribing to his podcast as well. And as always, if you have not yet subscribed to my podcast, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page @daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.